When President Trump relocated the U.S. Embassy in Israel from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, Israeli Jews considered it a big win, while Muslim Palestinians saw it as a snub. Now, more than 3 years later, President Biden is making his own mark, reshaping America's role. Scott Thuman reports from Israel.
In Jerusalem, not far from the Wailing Wall and the site of the tomb of Jesus, an empty dirt lot has become the epicenter of an international argument that took a chaotic turn nearly 4 years ago when then President Trump announced something that instantly reversed decades of U.S. foreign policy.
Today we finally acknowledge the obvious, that Jerusalem is Israel's capital.
At the time, no other country in the world had made such a declaration. And from Gaza to the gates of the old city, it set off a firestorm of violent protests by Palestinians who, like the Israelis, claimed Jerusalem as their capital, their sovereignty blocked by an American and Jewish alliance. More than 3 years later, Israelis we spoke to had mixed reaction. How long have people in Israel been talking about the embassy moving from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem?
5 years, maybe.
Long time.
Long time.
I think, we are happy with this decision that Trump made, and we hope that the new administration will keep it,
Preliminary actions were mostly symbolic, transferring some staff and services from the U.S. Embassy in Tel Aviv, located in this building since the 1960s, into temporary space at this building, an already existing U.S. consulate office in Jerusalem. With the location of a permanent embassy not yet determined, it was a move then presidential candidate Joe Biden initially criticized from the campaign trail in Boston, saying, quote, "It should not have been moved." The candidate became president, but Antony Blinken, then a nominee for Secretary of State, affirmed the Trump move at his own Senate confirmation hearing.
Do you agree that Jerusalem is the capital of Israel? Mm-hmm. And do you commit that the United States will keep our embassy in Jerusalem?
Yes and yes.
Though in recent days, desire to make another bold move surfacing, the president dispatching his now confirmed secretary to announce a matter likely to keep tensions in the region high: the reopening of a diplomatic compound, an American consulate located in a part of Jerusalem considered Palestinian territory.
We'll be moving forward with the process of opening a consulate as part of deepening those ties with the Palestinians.
When I sat down this summer with Palestinian Authority Prime Minister Mohammed Shtayyeh in their capital of Ramallah, located about an hour north of Jerusalem, he applauded the effort by the Biden administration to reestablish diplomatic ties inside the West Bank territory claimed by Palestinians, ties that may one day reopen peace talks between Israel, Palestine, and the U.S.
That's important to us because we consider American consulate in East Jerusalem as a nuclear for a future American embassy to Palestine, and that's the real value for us.
Dr. Michael Milstein is former head of the Israeli military's Department for Palestinian Affairs.
Here in Israel, we are in a very complex situation with a government that combines right and left, and maybe the response of the Israeli government for this move will be, maybe it will be a negative one.
Israel's Justice Minister, Gideon Sa'ar, proclaimed at the annual Jerusalem Post Conference the reopening of the U.S. diplomatic facility for Palestinians in Jerusalem will never happen.
I want to make it very clear. We oppose it. We don't oppose it now, and we will have a different opinion after the budget. We are 100% oppose that.
Meanwhile, there's ongoing debate over what's next. The State Department tells us a separate new U.S. embassy will replace the temporary setup in the same area of Jerusalem, but won't say exactly where, only that it will reflect the depth and breadth of the U.S. relationship with Israel. In a land where occupying disputed space claimed by two populations almost always has ramifications, it may make finding common ground even more elusive. For Full Measure, I'm Scott Thuman in Jerusalem.